It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Great to have you in studio today. Ed Mazulis with the Sedona Fire District is in studio. He's a battalion chief there. We're going to talk a little bit about swiftwater rescue, and then Ed actually brought in a booklet about the, what does it say there? Agency Operations Flood Plan for Oak Creek Canyon?
Interagency Operations Flood Plan, yes, for Oak Creek Canyon.
So I think we should probably hit that up too, because we were talking before the show that there, I guess what I'm feeling is there might be some complacency in Oak Creek Canyon, that maybe the closure doesn't need to be there anymore because we haven't had any major flood events since the slide fire hit. But we still want to err on the side of caution.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and then tell me about this. This is quite a plan you showed me earlier when you first got here today.
Now, this book is a collaborative effort between the county, U.S. Forest Service, Sedona Fire, Sedona PD, the Sheriff's Office, a lot of the resources that impacted and that impact Oak Creek Canyon. And it basically takes all of our communication devices and knowledge and all of our training and all of our resources and puts it in a book. So for us and anybody responding to the area for an emergency has a quick access guide, and it'll assist us with helping out our public. Now,
is this in addition to, back when the fire hit, Vic Morphin from Coconino National Forest, I told you he was in here a couple weeks back for the show. He said that Sedona Fire District had this amazing layout of Oak Creek Canyon that had all the decks and the sheds and the homes and driveways and right down to the mailboxes and stuff through there. And he said it was such a great asset for them to have fighting the slide fire. Was this created afterwards, or is this part of that?
This was created afterwards. A lot of that information was utilized to develop this.
Okay.
And like we were talking earlier, that mapping system started with our volunteers decades ago, and we've built on it with our GIS, internal GIS folks, and Tammy, she built some pretty incredible layered maps to help us and assist us with the flooding.
And this actually has pictures and maps of the areas that would be more flood prone than others, or where the water is going to flow faster than others.
Exactly, and you know, working with hydrologists and the Forest Service and those folks that know water and how it flows and topography, they assisted us and each other with developing these maps based on expected flows with how it relates to expected rainfall.
Okay. Well, we want to talk swiftwater rescue today, but before we get into that real fast, have we had any major incidents right now in Oak Creek Canyon? I know when you drive through there, there's barricades still up on both sides of Highway 89A. You can see back in there, there's sandbags around homes, concrete barriers around homes, and we've had a few incidents back in there.
We've had a few incidents that I would hazard to qualify anything as major or minor, because your or my interpretation of major or minor may be different.
Good point.
We have some people that the world is ending because there's some rocks in the road, and for us, we get out and kick them off. But ultimately, we've had a few rock slides, moderate, no damage, and then we had last week actually a couple folks caught up when one of the washes overflowed, but we were able to get them out without any incident.
So. Oh, so you did have a recent rescue?
It appeared they were trapped on an island. We did found an alternate access. We were able to secure them via land instead of getting in the water, which is always our first choice.
Where was this in the canyon?
This was right at Bear Wallow Campground, or RV Park, right at Snibley Hill Road.
Okay. Okay, right in that area there.
And what had happened is we had a large cell develop basically over the Stoneman Lake exit area, and it flowed down Snibley Hill, and there's the wash there that came up and isolated some folks.
See, now that's funny, you mentioned Stoneman Lake, and I think of Stoneman Lake being very far off to the east, but here this is proof that,
no, absolutely.
You know, it may not be raining in your backyard right now, but 10 miles away it is, and it's coming down really hard. I keep looking at when I leave or come to work, and like Tuesday, let's say Tuesday afternoon, for instance, it got so dark over here over Mingus Mountain, and then as far north as you could see, and I was thinking, boy, you know, I'm going to have to keep checking my tweets to see if National Weather Service is getting a flash flood warning over the slide fire, and it never happened.
No, and it's got the particular areas in the canyon where we have the most danger of damaging flooding. You know, there's got to be the perfect storm has to line up, and we have to get those flows right. But ultimately, with emergency response related to fire and flooding, you know, fire burns up and water flows down. So being in this region, it's pretty easy for people to determine, you know, with our topography, you know, what's going to happen.
We're going to have our heads up a long time on this one, aren't we?
Absolutely. A couple years we're going to need for vegetation to recover and for the soil to recover. And the Forest Service has ongoing efforts to mitigate that, and then Mother Nature's got to take over and grow.
Okay.
So,
well, you're here to talk about swiftwater rescue today.
Yes.
Thank you for that information. That was great. That booklet's impressive. Tell me about the Sedona Fire District's swiftwater rescue team.
We've got a specific technical rescue team. They're made up of multiple disciplines, from rope rescue to helicopter work to swiftwater, confined space, and so forth. But specifically with swiftwater, we've got technicians trained to a technician level, which means they're the guys you see on the news that get in the water, hang from the helicopter, and do that. And we've got them spread out over the 3 battalions or 3 shifts we have, so that we have responders available daily. And in addition to that, because of the hazards and having the waterway through our town, all of our personnel are trained to what's called the operations level. And those are the folks you see on the news at the side of the shore, using the ropes and helping with the operations.
Okay.
So, and that's something that Sedona Fire's been involved with since, you know, it's been a hazard since inception, but really some of our volunteers really started a robust technical rescue program, and we've grown it from there.
I would think 93, the flood of 93 was probably when we started seeing a lot of swiftwater rescue teams coming into play.
Absolutely.
Not that they weren't available prior to that.
Well, there was a big push with swiftwater, and I don't want to misquote the details, but there was an incident in LA County where there was some tragedy with the LA River Basin, and that really prompted some legislation and some changes to emergency response, and so a recognition of the fact that we weren't doing it right and that we were endangering the public and ourselves. And so that was a couple decades ago, and now we've really built a good system.
How many people make up a team?
It depends on the incident.
Okay.
And it depends on the complexity. If you've got to put a boat in the water, you know, you've got to have a couple people in the boat to manage it, and then the ropes associated with that, so you've got to have a few people on shore. And then we'll have a safety officer on scene that's kind of detached from the incident, that's kind of the, you know, head on a swivel, eyes of everything.
Okay.
And then
Well, he'd be watching for stuff maybe coming downstream, down the wash.
Well, we have those people too. We'll
okay, all right.
We call them upstream spotters and downstream spotters, because it's flowing at 100 CFS now doesn't mean that there's a wall of water not coming. So we'll have an upstream spotter. And then downstream folks, if we're in the middle of a rescue and a person is on top of their car, like we've seen on the news, and they fall off before we get to them, we put people downstream so they can attempt to effect a rescue as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good thinking.
Everything we do is redundant because mistakes and accidents happen.
What kind of training do you have to go through for this?
Well, specifically for our entire department, all our operations folks do an annual swiftwater training, and a lot of times we'll go down to the Verde, and it's not flowing too well usually, but I mean, it gets people wet and it gets them used to the equipment again. And then specifically our technicians on our team, we do a biannual recertification, and we'll go to some big water, generally Kernville, and it's class 3 and 4 rapids. And I've done the training, and it's frightening because you get there and our instructors who are in-house as well, we do that to reduce the costs, to suit us up, and you see this huge rapid where you just saw a couple commercial boats flip over, and they say, okay, jump in that and swim, and that's your introduction. And so we've had classroom training leading up to it, but when it's go day and you've got to jump in, and by the time you get your bearings, you're 50 to 100 yards downstream and ferrying out to get to the shore.
Sounds like the old days when Grandpa took you on the boat and said, "You want to learn how to swim? Here you go."
It's not quite that horrible. We're fully equipped with PPE, but what it does is it puts us in an environment where we're dealing with some swift water, and in a controlled setting, so that when we have an incident in town with swift water, where Oak Creek's normally a meandering waterway, it's not the first time we've seen water like that, and we understand how it acts, and water has quite a mind of its own. So it gives us the ability to kind of read the water and read the safe areas you can exit and so forth.
Okay, let's take our first break, okay?
All right.
Sedona Fire District Battalion Chief Ed Mazulis in studio today. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Teens who smoke marijuana regularly can see an 8-point drop in IQ by the time they reach 38. putting a person of average intelligence into the lowest third of the IQ range. Marijuana harmless? Think again.
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
I can't seem to save anything.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Get out to the forest.
Let the kids connect to their roots. It's gonna be so much fun. Yeah! Woo-hoo!
Hey, guys, wait up!
And discover the wonders of nature with your family.
These trees are the key to our way of life.
Fresh air.
What a glorious morning!
Clean water.
Woohoo! This is great!
An endless forest adventure.
Let's rock this jungle! Yo, this is untapped territory.
How amazing!
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to Countywide. Ed Mazulis, Battalion Chief for Sedona Fire District in studio today. We're talking about swift water rescues. And when we left off just before the break, we were talking about you go to what location to train?
Kernville, California.
Kernville, California.
And it's the Kern River, and as there's basically two options to see big water in a training environment. And a lot of swift water rescue folks in Arizona either go to the Upper Salt or Kernville, California. And logistically, it's easier for us to do that, and we get to see real water and real flows.
Yeah, that's got to be different. Like you mentioned, you were in the classroom for a little while, but then you actually have to experience that. How fast is the water moving there? Do you know, and how deep is it?
And depth is dependent. You know, the center of the river is deeper than the edges, of course, but ultimately, sometimes we'll see upwards of 5,000 cubic feet per second. And to relate that to here locally, the Verde generally flows about 150 cubic feet per second.
Now, when you walk into that water, what kind of equipment do you have on?
We've got boots, fins, a full wetsuit that's kind of
fins.
Fins.
Okay.
For swimming. Full wetsuit for that's reinforced in knees and elbows and stuff for bumps and bruises. We wear a personal flotation device and a helmet and then gloves.
How does a person stay upright with that much water coming at them?
You lay down and you go with the flow.
Okay, so you just kind of swim out there.
And it's actually, it's interesting if just the way you pitch your body in the water, feet downstream, the way you pitch your body left to right, the water will, you're creating more surface area, so the water will push you to one side or the other.
Okay.
So if you go straight on, you'll cruise right down the middle of the river, but if you just turn your body to left or right, we call it a ferry angle, it'll push you out to the side, and then you can turn and swim out. Or catch an eddy, which is, you know, if you see a big rock in the river, below the rock it's kind of swirling around. Right. That water's not flowing as fast, and so if you get into it, it kind of stirs you around and holds you there, and then it gives you a chance to get your bearings.
So I imagine if you've got a car that is downriver from, let's say, a low water crossing, which seems to be a kind of a typical scenario, you have to be able to judge where to get in order to get to that car?
Exactly.
Okay.
And we have multiple options to get in, and we have the term we use is reach, throw, row, go, helo. And basically what that means is if we can reach in and grab them, or with a long pole, we want to reach in and grab them and not put anybody in the water. And if we can throw a rope and have them grab onto it, pull them out, that's our next option for that. And then row is we have the swiftwater boats throughout the Verde Valley, and we'll inflate it and we'll put personnel in it and a rope system and get out to them on a boat. And then go is you know, for example, those downstream spotters I was talking about, if we're working on a boat operation with the vehicle and the person falls off, it may be the only option for that person downstream for a go rescue, where they're tethered to shore with a rope and they jump in the water and swim for the victim. And we practice that as well when we're doing our training. And what's unique about that rope is all our rescuers have a device they pull and it releases the rope, so if they get entangled, they can rescue themselves. And then helo, of course, is helicopter, and that's our last option. And generally when you have swiftwater incidences, you also have a raging storm, so helicopter is not always a good option. And the inherent risk of having rotating blades above a carload of 70-year-old people trying to rescue them there's just more risk involved, so we try to do it few risks as possible.
Now, in terms of the training, you have to deal with me. I'm the one who tried to go across this low water crossing, and cars aren't as heavy as they used to be, and a foot of water took my vehicle, and now it's 100 yards down the wash. You have to be trained in how to deal with Mr. Panic here. My wife, my kids, we're all sitting down this river on top of our car, like you said, and wondering, okay, is the water going to come up more? We're panicked.
Absolutely.
So there's got to be training on how to deal with the people you're trying to rescue, because we could be a harm to you. And
that is a big part of the training, because you know, a lot of what we do in the fire districts and fire departments is emergency medical response, where you go to somebody's home and you assess a medical problem. And with that and with house fires and everything else, we do so much training on customer service and how to be professional and do the right things for the right reason, and just kind of kid gloves with a lot of these folks that are scared. And that's the part about swiftwater that's unique, is you kind of got to be a little more aggressive with folks and grab hold of them and get personal with them and take them to safety. And
your job is very time is of the essence, no matter what you're doing.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how you set up so quickly to rescue people in this situation.
We train and we train and we train, and the muscle memory is there. And a lot of the stuff we do for swiftwater, the ropes float, whereas ropes for a rock rescue really don't. But the knots are the same. A lot of the terms are the same. A lot of the mindsets are the same, very safety oriented. So we just transition a lot of stuff, and you familiarize yourself with the personal protective equipment. And just by nature, a lot of our folks recreate in an environment that's similar to, you know, in swiftwater arenas, they're kayakers and canoers and mountain bikers and everything else. So it's kind of our natural progression professionally to be able to do that stuff. So training is key, though.
Is everybody at Sedona Fire District or any department trained in swiftwater rescue, or does it take a certain person like yourself?
No, every agency is specific and different. At Sedona Fire District, everybody in operations is trained to the operations level, and then, like I said, we have our team, which they're technicians. They're the technical get in the water guys and gals. But ultimately, you know, every agency doesn't do it. In the Verde Valley, there's a robust training program because of the nature of having two waterways. But you know, I can't speak to every department, but I would imagine there are some departments in Arizona that may have a couple of washes, but they don't have as robust a training program.
You guys responded down to Black Canyon City last week. Sedona Fire had a swiftwater team, I believe, down there.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we did or not. We've responded out of town numerous times. We were at the Schultz Fire for the post Schultz Fire. We were out there for the fire, then we were there for the flooding incident, and we've got a squad vehicle that we use for those out-of-town and in-town responses, and it's was funded by Homeland Security, and it's a big Craftsman toolbox. It's got everything we need for everything.
We'll take our second break already.
All right.
Ed Malinsky's in studio today with the Battalion Chief with Sedona Fire District. I'm Paul David. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Teens who smoke marijuana regularly can see an 8-point drop in IQ by the time they reach 38, putting a person of average intelligence into the lowest third of the IQ range. Marijuana harmless? Think again.
Good one, son.
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation.
First, we went deep sea fishing. Wow!
I'm so proud of you, son.
And then we went on Thunder Shark. That was awesome! Let's go again. 3 times. I gotta say, it was pretty cool.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Oh, not again.
We need a claim number?
When I started taking care of Mom, I didn't realize the challenge of playing so many roles. But above all, I'm still her daughter.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving. We're here to help.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. You can't control where it will land, only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how to protect your community from wildfires.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Take my hand and start a brand new day.
Underneath everything we are all people. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Welcome back to Countywide. Ed Mazulis in studio today, Battalion Chief for Sedona Fire District. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Real quick, I think we've got a couple minutes left in the program. Okay. We should probably kind of reiterate the fact that, do you think we're overreacting with Oak Creek Canyon? It's closed and it's going to stay closed at least through December right now. But we were talking prior to the show that, and we saw it in '93 and we've seen it in other times as well, the big concern with the winter time. Let's talk a little bit about winter concerns with the slide fire.
Well, to start off, the winter concerns are, if we get a good snowfall and a good snowpack and it's followed up by early spring rains, that's going to create quite a bit of flow, and that's going to be a concern for everybody involved, residents to emergency responders. But as far as your question about overreacting, I don't think we are. There's a lot of people much smarter than myself that have analyzed this, and we're heavily involved with incidents across the United States, up to and including the Schultz incident in Flagstaff, where we lost life. And there was some unexpected outcomes from the flows there, and we want to be better prepared for our residents in Oak Creek Canyon. And as far as the closures go, the forest has analyzed multiple things to determine what needs to be closed and what not, and I'm sure they'll lift those restrictions as they find things to be a more comfortable environment and a safer environment. So I don't think we're over-prepared at all.
I think it's unusual how quickly Arizona's weather can change.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many years ago it was, but I'm thinking back to Tlaquepaque. I don't think anyone ever thought that it would monsoon storm over Grayback Mountain.
No.
And then all of a sudden, Tlaquepaque's, all the cars in the parking lot and Los Amargados are lifted up now, and then they're going down a wash and people are trapped on second floors. It happened just like that.
And absolutely, and that was, you have these washes and waterways, and if you're in Prescott, Flagstaff, or Sedona, and you see these man-made waterways or these natural waterways, they're waterways. At some time or another, water's going to flow down them. And I think one thing to consider too is, as a lot of folks that have been in the area for a long time say, well, it's never flooded there. Well, as we've grown, we've built roads and man-made waterways, which we drive on, and they redirect flow, so things change. And the way water flows changes, and we manipulate that. So absolutely, there's, I'm not saying that we're going to have to build boats and be ready for, an epic Katrina type event, but absolutely, we're going to have the potential for localized flooding that's going to cause damage.
If it's raining hard, pay attention. Ed Mazulis, thank you so much for coming in. That's today's Countywide. I'm Paul David. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll talk to you again next time.